Hello. My goodness, where did my voice go? Happy Friday, you guys. Okay, bear with me while I just do a little quick check and make sure that all the technology things are working the way they're supposed to be working here because you guys all know me in tech and my super fantastic internet at home, I think is not working great. So I'm gonna try connecting over to my phone here and see if that's a little better. Okay, let's see. How are we doing? If somebody could please let me know if I'm live, if my feed is coming in okay. That would be lovely. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Jen. You just let me know if this is working okay here. It looks like it's okay. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing this thing. Okay. Oh, I'm a bit choppy. Dang it. Working from home today and potty training the toddlers. So, yeah, it's a fun time. Okay. Well, I'm gonna give it a shot. If I totally cut out, I will record something for you. Okay, so I am doing potty training. Oh, I can see I'm frozen. Not fun. Well, we'll see. Doing potty training with a 3-year-old this today, tomorrow, and the next day. We're literally doing the naked run around the house kind of potty training. And it's interesting to say the very least. And yeah, we're doing a lot of mind management, me and my husband. But there's something really interesting about this whole experience, okay? It's this that my brain wants to tell me that we are failing. It wants to tell me that um, the accidents that she's having mean it's not working. Yet, we've had more successful pees and poops on the potty than we've ever had before in one day, doing things the way we've done things in the past. So it's a perfect example of failing forward. It took 10 pees on the floor to get 2 pees in the potty, right? And realizing that it means we're moving in the right direction, but it would be so easy to interpret this as not going well if we were only looking at the failures. So I think it's an important lesson in two ways. One is we need to look at both, right? At like, even though we're getting failures, how are we doing on the success front? But the second one is this, all of those failures, every time she's doing that, she's learning something about what her body is doing. And she needs to do that so that she can figure out, right? She can go from that, I peed, to I'm peeing, to I need to go pee. So it's all part of the process. Second thing I wanted to tell you about, which is just like such a fun testament to the power of coaching, the way it's showing up for me in my life. Okay. So yesterday I had an EGD scope down into my stomach. And I have literally been terrified that I would need a scope at some point in time all of my career in medicine because I had this horrible experience of like gagging and choking and puking and just like awful things happen in my mind about ever doing one of these things. Well, let me tell you, I went in yesterday morning and I was as cool as a cucumber and I had an absolutely incredibly easy, simple, and straightforward experience doing this scope. And I said to my mom and my dad and my husband, I was like, I don't even know the person I am. Like, I would have been freaking out about this if it was like any other time in my life. But I have just learned how to manage my emotions so well that this was like such a smooth and easy thing for me. I just love being able to sit here and tell you about this. And I think it's so important that we celebrate our wins because it's such a huge um, example of just a big win, right, for me. Okay, I'd love to hear in the chat about your wins, and I'd love for you to give me a hashtag live or a hashtag replay or a hashtag feeling forward or anything like that. And some hearts, because those always please the Facebook gods. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to get your patients to buy into the changes that you're making in your practice. If you're using some of these tools that I teach in this group, or if you're going to come to in September 27th, 29th, so September 27th to the 29th, I'm going to do the End the Preclinic Tread challenge again. And you'll definitely be coming out of End the Preclinic Dread wanting to make some changes in your practice. So I would like to give you a little heads up on how you can get your patients to buy into the changes that you're making. So whenever we start to think about making changes, we sometimes become paralyzed or we end up going back on the things that we said we were going to do, or we don't enforce boundaries that we plan to put in place because of some sneaky thoughts that persist for us, which might be something like, how do I do this without seeming like I'm rude? How do I interrupt people without making them angry? How do I do this without upsetting someone else? Oh, what if they think I'm rude and then they make a complaint about me? And usually it's these thoughts that lead you to consider to let your patients decide how you will spend your time. Right? These are the kind of thoughts that keep your visits running, like that keep your charts not being done, that keep you working every evening and every weekend, that keep you forgetting to order things that you said you were going to order. Oh, Shauna, I love your face too, darling. Oh my gosh, just made my day. And these are the kind of things that lead you to forgetting that a patient can choose to complain about you for anything you do at any point in time, always, and that it's never going to be in your control. So let me teach you how to approach this before you do the challenge and you learn all the beautiful tips that I'm going to share with you that are going to change your practice forever and lead to you giving yourself a raise, which I will teach you about in the challenge. That's something new that I'm adding. This is the key thing, okay? You have to get yourself so sold on why this is helping your patients that you believe you'd be rude not to put these challenges in place. Let me give you an example, okay? Many female physicians run behind chronically because they allow their visits to take longer than scheduled, because they manage an unlimited list of complaints. They make lots of small talk. They listen to their patients talk for long periods of time when they aren't providing any like new medical useful information, and because they don't chart while they're in the room. And they do this, by the way, I used to also be in this club, okay, so I totally get it. But we do this because we think we are helping our patients. We care about them, right? We think we're giving of ourselves to our patients. We want to be kind, we want to be caring, we want to be compassionate, but we don't want to compromise the quality of the care we provide for speed. We're believing that we're doing this, okay? I get this. I really do get this. But we have to ask ourselves hard questions if we're behaving like this, okay? Are we really actually improving the quality of care we provide to our patients when we run behind and we're sitting there like on the edge of our seat trying to bite our tongue because we're listening to someone's nanny talk about stuff that like has nothing to do with medicine? Are patients really coming to our office hoping for the longest visit they can possibly get? Would patients rather have our time than have their investigations ordered, have their medications filled? And then we can also ask ourselves questions like this: how do I spend less time with my patients and still be kind and caring and compassionate? What if they aren't mutually exclusive? What if it's possible for me to set boundaries and still show up and be the physician that I want to be for my patients? I like asking these questions because they inspire me to create the experience I want to have in the world. I've chosen one where I'm quick and I'm efficient and I still care about my patients and do whatever I can to help them leave the room feeling validated and cared for, and realizing there's limits to how much I can do that for anyone, right? So, back to this idea of selling ourselves so that we can help our patients get on board. Think about when you go and you see a physician. What is your expectation when you walk in? What do you want out of the consultation? Do you walk in hoping that you're just going to get the most amount of time from them as you can possibly get? Do you go in thinking that time is the equivalent of care? Another way to think about this is, have you ever seen a physician who rambled on and took forever to ask you questions when you were really just wanting them to give you a prescription, right? Or what about when you see another service provider? Say you're going to get your car repaired, okay? Do you want it to take the longest amount of time possible when you're there to get all the answers and all the explanations um, for, how they're going to fix your car? Or do you want to just leave feeling like you had a good encounter with a human being that you trusted who's going to fix your car without gouging you and with your car fixed as quickly as possible? This is also what your patients want. They want a solution to their problem and they want a nice human to provide it. They don't necessarily want you to give them exorbitant amounts of time in doing so. It's okay to remind them of this when they forget that, okay? When they decide to tell you their life story, they are all humans, and sometimes they forget this, especially if they're nervous or they're a little bit intimidated because they're talking to somebody that they really respect. So, what do you think would happen if you fully believed that the best way to serve your patients was to see them for the amount of time that you had allotted for the visit, and to get your note done, to get the prescription sent off, to get the investigations ordered, to get everything done while the patient was there? Now, the next question is, how would you communicate this to your patient if they started to go off track or, distract you away from the task at hand that you're trying to complete for them, right? Or tried to keep telling you about other patients while you were charting? It's a really good question to ask yourself. Like, how can you just bring them back to where they need to be? Then the question is it possible if you could remind them that you really want to make sure that they get what they came for and that it takes you a bit of time to do that, right? Like, gently remind them, it's going to take me a couple of minutes to order these investigations for you, but I really want to make sure you get what you need out of today's visit. Is it possible you could teach them how to treat you, right? That you could explain to them that the huge benefit of you getting this done is that they get what they need out of the visit. They get to leave today knowing full well that everything they need to deal with whatever problem they've brought to you is going to be dealt with. This is where all of your power lies, my friends. It's in your ability to sell your patients on how your time is not the same as the highest sophisticated skill that you provide as a physician. It's your brain that the patient needs. It's your brain that thinks up the best plan for them, that orders the investigations, writes the referrals. It's your brain that makes sure there's no interactions with this new medication you're providing them. It's your brain that knows what the risks and the benefits of any treatment that you're going to provide, all of that. This is your specialty as a physician. So it's up to you to first sell yourself on this so that it becomes easier for you to sell your patients on the way you practice medicine, on how you provide that service to them. In fact, you can borrow my belief that this is the most caring thing that you can do for your patients if you really want to help them. That if you really want to help them and make the most of their time, that you're going to teach them this important lesson. That you help more people by implementing an intention to run as close as possible to on time and complete what the patient needs in the visit. For me, when I started, and listen, don't get me wrong, sometimes I run behind. Sometimes people present with stuff where extra time is required, okay, for medical reasons, right? But when I learned how to decipher and discern the difference between those types of visits, they became few and far in between. And I just knew I was just going to finish that much further behind and didn't create any more drama for myself about it. Okay. So, for instance, when somebody comes into my office and they're in an acute mental health crisis, some of my patients, or some of my clients, I should say here, have do care where they're going to see acute emergencies, right? Where things are not necessarily going to take a fixed amount of time. Um, what I'm trying to hammer home here is our approach to the routine, the mundane, right? The things that do are more likely, the 90% versus the 10%, right? The things that are more likely to steer us off our um, schedule that we've laid out for ourselves in the day. For me, when I made this change, this has created the result of being able to actually take on more patients than I've ever been able to handle before in the past in my career, having excellent relationships with my patients, having actually, believe it or not, like really no one complained to me in the 2 years since I began implementing this. I get home, I can have supper with my family. I'm not doing like tons of paperwork evenings and weekends, and I'm not a unicorn. My clients have been able to do this too. I know some of you are here watching this right now who have had success at implementing some of these changes. And you need to raise your hand and say, like, you're not a unicorn too. Okay. For some of you, it's going to take some work to believe these new things. And if that's you, definitely make sure that you attend and the pre-clinic dread in September, okay, and join the waitlist for our October launch that's coming up. Um, because my new program is going to be the only way to work with me, but more important, um, I wholeheartedly know this is the way to get the results that you want in your life. Yes, I've seen a few. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat here for a minute. I've seen a few of you writing that as a suggestion to complete everything in the presence of the patient during the appointment time. Yeah, that is what I'm suggesting. It's a little bit radical, hey? I love this conversation because it's like it's something that most of us have never considered even doing before, okay? But again, don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's going to be reasons you're going to defer something because you're waiting for something, okay? I'm not trying to like break your brain and have you like think of all the, one-off situations where this doesn't make sense. I'm suggesting that in the average visit with a patient, that's, a non-acute visit, that this is actually possible. Now, sometimes we're doing this thing where we're trying to do, let's see, maybe 10 hours worth of work in a 7-hour day. Okay. And so one of the first things I had to do when I started implementing this stuff was actually make the length of my visits a little bit longer, but it became possible to have everything done. And I still think I was spending more time with my patients before I made this mindset shift. And I really think it's important not to just take away from this what the action is that you should do. Okay. So if you're not sold yourself on why it's good for your patients to make this change, if you haven't thought about it and convinced yourself first that you're serving the patient by doing this, then it's going to be really hard to get them on board. Okay. It's going to be really hard to explain it to them, right? It's just going to create a whole bunch of resentment for you and a bunch of stress and more rules. And that's not what I want you to do at all here. What I want you to do is believe that it could be possible to leave with little to nothing left that you need to do for the patient after they leave your office. Okay. And if you were focused on that and doing that and delivering your service in a way where you feel good about how you show up as the physician, right, where you have a real human connection with your patient still, what would it look like? Yeah, I love it, Natalie. Yeah, just be open to trying, right? Because there's no downside to being open to trying. this is exactly it, right? And maybe that's a task you can delegate to somebody in your office, right? Then this is all stuff I'm going to teach, by the way, and the challenges, different ways we can kind of make this work. Um, Shauna, I saw a question from you, and for whatever reason, okay, bear with me for a second here, guys. Hang on 1 second here. Sorry, I gotta mute myself. Okay, and now I can go back and I can see your question here, Shauna. I think you actually had asked maybe the same. Okay, how can you help to create a consistent boundary among all the providers in your office so the patients have the same expectation? Okay, um, I don't think you can do that because I think that's again sort of, and Shauna, I'm going to be direct with you because you and I have a relationship. But what I'm going to say is this: um, that's you trying to control people who you can't control, which are the other providers in your office. So the way to approach this, I think, is for you to remember that it doesn't matter what the other doctors do. It matters what you do and how you teach your patients, what you teach them to expect from you. Okay. So even if they notice that there's a difference between providers, it doesn't really matter. It's no big deal. There can be a difference between providers. Patients know there's a difference from one human being to another. They don't expect us to be robots and all do things the same. And they then get to pick and choose which doctor they relate to better. And if they really have a problem with something that we do, there's other doctors in the world, right? It's okay. Like, there's always patients out there, you guys. Okay, let me see what Cindy said here. Okay, so RNs are being told to complete all their EMR records before the patient even sees the physician while still in the room. So you're waiting 10 to 20 minutes longer to get in the room with the patient. What could you do with that time, Cindy? Like, is there something that you could start to do with that time? Am I breaking your brain a little, Shauna? Um, yeah, it's definitely waiting is not ideal, but if it's something that's not in your control, Cindy, then the question becomes like, what could you do with that time? Is there something you can pre-prep for yourself? Is there some way that you can work on something? Can you be dictating something from the previous patient? Like, is there some way that you can fill that time and space with something helpful that will allow you to use the time the most optimally? Because there are limits to who we can control in these equations, right? We're never really going to ever have the opportunity to control other people. But what I'm trying to show you here is that if your mindset is focused on solution finding, new things that you never considered ever before are going to come up for you in your in the way you interact with the world. Okay, so sometimes we're the best communicators at why something is important or why a change is important when we're completely sold ourselves on why it's ideal. Sometimes we explain things to other people in a different way than we ever did before. So I never want you guys, when these kind of issues involve other people, I never want you to decide that because the way you tried it in the past or because it involves somebody else that there is no solution here, because sometimes the most powerful way you'll communicate with another human being will be coming from a place where you are really sold on the benefit of this, not only for you, but also for your patients, also for the other people you work with, your colleagues, right? And when we're in that energy, right? When we're feeling empowered, when we're in deep in that belief that there's a different way to do things, sometimes the best ideas and the most unique ideas, the things we've never thought of before in our life are the things that are going to come out of us. So we're getting into like the woo-woo a little bit here, but I'm not telling you that, you need to go out and like Anyway, I'll let you fill in the blanks there about the funny things that you could possibly imagine. Um, I'm not suggesting that you use the Force to try to do Jedi mind tricks and control people. I'm suggesting that your most unique ideas come from a place of inspiration and empowerment rather than when we're feeling like really frustrated or really cynical or really jaded about the things that are happening in the system around us. Okay, I don't know if I missed anything else here. I'm just looking back to see. I don't think I see any more questions. Thanks all for joining me. It was fun chatting with you all tonight. Give me again the hashtag live or the hearts just so more people get to lay eyes on this little chat we had. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.